The beginning of the interwar period found Greece exhausted in all areas after a decade of war. Priority was given to internal reconstruction with main goals: the return of political normalcy, the economic recovery, the rehabilitation of refugees, etc. In the field of foreign policy, Greece did not have aggressive aspirations towards its neighboring states and aimed exclusively at defending its territorial integrity. In the 1930s, the country's only potential enemy was the revisionist Bulgaria, which sought to regain territory it had lost during previous wars. Among them were the Greek regions of Eastern Macedonia and Western Thrace. For this reason, Greece began studying the fortification of the Greek-Bulgarian borders, which, however, did not proceed on a practical level, due to the political instability of the period 1933 to 1935. The assumption of power by Ioannis Metaxas in August 1936 brought the necessary political stability, and the Greek government gave high priority to the construction of fortifications. By the summer of 1940, the Greek army built a total of 21 forts, 19 in eastern Macedonia and 2 in western Thrace, which became known as the Metaxas Line. The mission of the forts was to gain the necessary time for the mobilization and concentration of the Greek army, in case of a Bulgarian invasion. However, the forts were not the only fortifications built. In areas that were more rugged, and the construction of forts was not possible, field fortifications were constructed. It is the defense organization of an area exclusively with surface works, such as machine guns and observatories, trenches, communication ditches and barbed wire zones. A typical example was the fortification of the ridge of Mount Belz, which was the only serious geographical barrier that covered the area of Thessaloniki from the north, and the vital transport lines of northern Greece. To protect the area, the Greek army constructed 9 concrete pillboxes, which would prevent the enemy from passing through the rugged paths and mule routes of the mountain and descend to the Greek hinterland. On October 28, 1940, Italy attacked Greece through Albania, which was occupied in April 1939. The Greek army not only managed to defend effectively, but also to counterattack and advance into Italian territory. Despite reinforcements sent by Mussolini, the Italian army was unable to regain the lost territory, and the front reached a stalemate. The failure of the Italian attack on Greece forced Hitler to intervene with German forces in the Balkans, both to save the prestige of his ally and to cover his southern flank, in view of the planned attack on the Soviet Union. On March 1, 1941, Bulgaria joined the Axis, and a few days later, German forces crossed the Danube, reached the Greek-Bulgarian border, and began to take up positions for the impending attack on Greece. The main line of defense were the forts of the Metaxas Line, which blocked the main route towards the Greek hinterland, the Rupel Pass, through which the Strymon River flows, between the mountains Belz and Agistro. At Mount Belz, the German forces that undertook the attack were the 5th Mountain Division, under Major General Julius Ringel, which attacked the Greek forts in the east, and the 6th Mountain Division, under Major General Ferdinand Schorner, which attacked in the west. Responsible for the Greek defense from Mount Belz to Strymon River was the 18th Infantry Division, under Major General Leonidas Sturgiopoulos. Its forces were divided into 3 sectors, with the east being charged with defending West Belz. There, the German forces had to go through 2 passages, in order to proceed into the Greek hinterland. The first passage began from Kale Bear, in the area just above Triathens, and continued to the villages Platanakia and Kalakori. The second began from Demir Kapu, and through Ano Paroya ended in the valley of Rhodopoli. The head of the sector was Lieutenant Colonel Lucas Kitsos, commander of the 70th Infantry Regiment, which had 2 battalions, for the defense of the 2 key points. As previously mentioned, the Greek army had built 9 concrete pillboxes in the area, which were tasked with delaying the enemy advance as much as possible. After all, the Greek fortifications were designed to face the Bulgarian army, and not the far superior German army, and even without reserves, since they were all on the Albanian front, fighting the Italians. 2 of these pillboxes, the P7 and the P8, were built to cover Omorphoplegia, above the village Onoperoia. They were a machine gun platoon, under the command of Reserve Sergeant Dimitrios Itsios. Dimitrios Itsios was born in Onoperoia of Ceres on April 5, 1906 and had Vlach roots. With the outbreak of the Greek-Italian War in October 1940, at the age of 35, he enlisted in the Greek army as a reserve officer, and in view of the German attack on Greece, he was sent to man the pillboxes over his village. The German offensive against Greece, codenamed Operation Marita, began on April 6, 1941. Greek forces strongly resisted the superior Germans, delaying for weeks the Wehrmacht's plans for a speedy crossing of Belz, and the descent into the Rhodopoli Valley. Itsios was fighting in P8, and he was ordered to cover with his pillbox the gradual retreat of Greek units, and when the conditions were right, to leave with his men. One after another, Bel's pillboxes went silent, except for P8, which was still fighting. Itsios, seeing that it was only a matter of time before his pillbox was surrounded, ordered his men to retreat, and leave him alone to continue the resistance. Out of the 5 soldiers of the pillbox, 2 of his fellow villagers refused to obey the order, and stayed with him to fight till the end. The Germans, despite their fierce attacks, were unable to neutralize the pillbox, and they suffered heavy losses. The 3 men fought until they ran out of ammunition, and were forced to surrender. After the ceasefire, the Germans carefully approached the pillbox, and their commander opened a dialogue with Itsios. He first asked him who the commander was, and when Itsios replied that he was in front of him, he was surprised, because he was expecting to find an officer. The German congratulated him for his bravery and the resistance, and showed him the slope that his pillbox covered, which was full of dead German soldiers. Itsios replied that he was just doing his duty, and the German replied that he now had to do his own. Then, he ordered the execution of the Greek sergeant, and a German soldier shot him in the temple. The execution of Dimitrios Itsios was the first war crime in Greece by the Germans during the period 1941 to 1944. The 2 comrades of Itsios were released, and ran to the Greek rear, where they found the commander of their battalion, Major Stylianos Kolonas, who was still fighting, and informed him of the fate of Sergeant Itsios. Thanks to the report of Major Kolonas after the end of the hostilities, the story of Dimitrios Itsios became known to the Greek public. Itsios, along with other Greek fallen soldiers, was buried in Omorphoplegia. In 1946, his wife, Anna, along with other villagers, dug up and transported his bones for burial in his village, Onoperoia. Later, Itsios was awarded the rank of Staff Sergeant, as well as the Silver Cross of Valor. The community of Onoperoia honored its hero, by erecting a bronze bust in the central square of the village, while the military camp of Peroia was named after him. Dimitrios Itsios could have left his position in time, and returned to his wife and his 5-year-old son. But his honor and dignity did not allow him to think about it, even for a moment. He stayed in the pillbox and fought until the end, earning a worthy place in the pantheon of Greek heroes. He just did his duty,